Ronit, it's so good to see you. I'm Scott. This is Scott Talks, and we are following up on a really informative and honest interview with Laura Cathcart Robbins. We are talking today about the events and the things that have occurred since October 7th and things before that. Ronit came on our show. It was season 12. It was 2 years ago. Just after the release of your book, I think it was.
Yeah.
When she comes home.
When she comes back.
Or when she comes back. Sorry. I have it written here, but
it happens a lot. Believe
it. When she comes back. And then it was the story of your family's journey with a particular cult in the 70s, or your mother had taken off. And Laura and I saw that documentary, and it was really powerful. The thing, I think, when you asked me in the interview what I thought of the interview, and I said it was awesome, was actually, as I was watching the documentary, I didn't even realize that had gone down. I kept turning to Laura during the documentary and was like, where was I when this went down? Like, I feel like it just got right under me. There were echoes of it in my mind, but it was a big deal. And the federal government went after this cult. There was a sense of justice and a real deep sense of understanding of how this particular cult came to be. And also it seemed to really give us an idea of how it went off power. Like you said, power is a drug. And when somebody gets some, it can be a dubious thing for sure. But that was only the beginning of your journey. You're a writer, you're a podcaster, you're a teacher, you're a friend of our podcast. You and Laura are work together spreading a word, a common theme, I think, of what it's like to have a unique experience in the world. And I have to say that I feel so uneducated when it comes to the issue of Palestine, Israel, being Jewish. Even, one of the things I think I experienced coming into my relationship with Laura was I thought I knew some things until I hung around. And my first impulse around a lot of issues is I come from the dominant race here in the U.S., obviously, and I've had to just learn to listen a lot more, and this issue is one that I find myself playing ping pong in my head as I listen, where I'm on one side and then I'm on another, and I'm constantly going back and forth. I'm absolutely on your side when you said in the interview you are pro-life, you are you are anti-killing innocent people, you are anti-Hamas, and pro, and there's a big difference between Palestine and Hamas. And I guess I just want to open it up to you to, it's one thing to speak to people who are educated about this issue, but it's another thing to speak to people who aren't. And I think the first thing I can do in any situation when it's emotional and it's powerful is to admit what I don't know. And then I can hear it better. But what do you say to someone like me who is curious about how he can participate in this and how he can help support the things that are right?
Thank you for that, Scott. A friend of mine has a podcast, Mother's Quest, and she got together and has a couple of episodes with an organization that brings bereaved Israeli and Palestinian parents together, those who have lost children because of the fighting between the two places. It's called Family Circle, and she has interviewed those moms, and they have benefits for them, and they have dinners. And so that seems to me to be a really positive way to understand the human side of this beyond the politics. Right. I think you're not alone in being confused. I think there are Jewish people I'm friends with who know more than I do. And sometimes I even have to try to keep track of what the heck happened here. And the problem is really, you can say beyond, before the British came and cut up the Middle East, it was a bit of a mess, and people were taking it back and fighting and, kicking Jews out of, what are now Arab lands. But there were Jews all across the Middle East for so long. And, Jewish people the ancient Israelites have been in that area in what is known as Israel for, 3,000 years. So they really are there. There is like, these actual historic sites. You can see them. It's, this common language and this history and this religion, this society, this territory has been there. So for more than 3,000 years. And I think that we're in a very small space over here in Israel and what is Gaza and these surrounding nations. And it is a pressure cooker. And there's a lot of information that I'm not as well versed on. For example, one of my sources is called Roots Metals, and she talks about how people like to say that Israel was a reward for Jews for the Holocaust. It was like a gift to them because of what happened at the Holocaust. But she calls that a myth, and she goes into that on her website. So
Okay.
there's so many intricacies. And you can also, anytime you're getting a simple answer, anytime someone is just giving you like a knee-jerk response to something, I would say interrogate it, because this thing is a nest within a nest within a nest within a nest. And, not all Israelis even like who's in their leadership right now. And my father was warning me about Israel and what was going on in the Knesset, which is their governing body, back last summer before all this happened in October. He was very worried about what was going on and the control that Netanyahu was trying to wrest from the other people who could maybe check and balance him. Nobody was in the kitchen. Nobody was at home. And that's when this happened. The other thing that happened here is that the military didn't listen to their young soldiers, their young women soldiers, who warned them again and again and again and again that something was afoot and that they needed to pay attention. So the breakdown is like, there's multitudes of breakdowns. Now, in terms of Gaza, what I understand, I've never been comfortable at all with the idea of having a homeland, a place that's for the Jewish people, next to a whole bunch of people who aren't feeling at home in their land. Like,
Right.
that is just not something that ever made sense to me. And I'm not, a bellicose person. I'm not into war. I'm not into, I don't think I want destruction. Like, that's not me. I don't think I could live in Israel if I had had the choice. Like, I went back to Israel in 2015 through 2016, I think, with my daughter and my family. And I remember thinking, it's beautiful here. I feel a little bit of a call because I was born here. I studied abroad there for 4 months in college, but I am really happy I don't have to live there, because I would not want to be surrounded by nations that wanted to destroy me.
Mm.
And I wouldn't want to be near a group of people who needed to be controlled, or they would hurt me, or they would want my land. Like, I just could not do it. And I'm lucky enough to have that privilege to move, to live in the States, right?
Yeah.
But what are people who only have the land in Gaza, who only have the land in Israel to live? They don't have citizenship anywhere else. What are they supposed to do? And I don't, there is no simple answer.
Yeah, that's what I think I keep. I really appreciate all that, because I think I'm almost afraid to talk about it with anyone, because it sort of borderlines emotional and right and wrong, and like you said, it's just not black and white anywhere in the whole issue. And there's so much history to it, and it feels like I just need to educate myself a little bit more on it. I
Well,
will
yeah,
say,
and I think, yeah, sorry. Oh, you're
no, go
winding
ahead.
down. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, people say, oh, it's like I'm on either side. I equivocate all the time. Like, oh, but Israel gave them warning. They could leave the areas where they're going to bomb. And I'm like, yeah, but where are they supposed to go?
Where are they
That's a
going to
lot of
go? Right.
people. How are they supposed to go? And then people are like, yeah, but Israel's the only army that ever tells people before they do this. And they know that the heads of Hamas are right there. They know that their weapons are there. They are building weapons under a
entrenched
hospital.
in the community. They are hiding.
Yeah, how are you supposed to? It's awful. And the other thing is that, look, if I lived in Gaza and I didn't have resources and I had to deal with the governing body, which was Hamas, or someone was going to rat me out and say, listen, she's not participating. She's pro, peace. She doesn't want to kill more Israeli soldiers. How am I going to do? How's my family going to eat? You know what I mean? So
Sure.
Always I'm going to pay attention to the governing body of Gaza, which is Hamas, and the governing body in Israel, Netanyahu, not the Israeli people and the Jews at large, not the Gazans at large. And that's, politics, culture wars, and then people using these people, using the plight of a people who's been relocated and living in this refugee status for so long, in part because other countries haven't absorbed them. There's
Right.
no reason. Israel didn't even want Gaza. Egypt was like, we don't want it back. You take it, Israel. No one wanted this area or these people to manage. And so it's a rock and a hard place underneath a boulder at the bottom of the sea. I just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I was going to ask, what do you see happening? But it's a nice, honest answer from a very complicated situation. And, I think, like you said, well, it's so well in the podcast with Laura, it's just important that we talk honestly about it and allow people space to, find themselves in it so that they can help, in any way, and support. I think the worst thing I can do is take a side without understanding any of
Yes.
the information. Right.
Yes, the worst thing I can do is take a side. Actually, Scott, I would say, and maybe I'll live to regret that I'm saying something so, carte blanche, but like, I should never take a side until I really have all the information. Everything is nuance.
Right. And it's a tough place to stand sometimes at our Sunday night dinner with our family, to stand in
Yeah.
nuance. People want an opinion, and they
Oh,
want you to be
no.
somewhere with it, and they feel like you aren't educated with it if you don't have an opinion. And, I know that's our
Nuance
Sunday
doesn't
dinner,
sell, right?
but that's
No,
also the
people,
world. Like, if I go out
yeah.
into the world and I don't have an opinion, people feel like I'm not educated. And I feel like you, like, if I'm not educated enough, and then the intersectionality of the Black people's journey, and sort of what I've seen in the U.S. in the last 7 years, 6 years, again, making me realize that I have a lot more to learn. Like, I need to hear things from a lot of different perspectives before I gain my opinion.
I also think about it this way, like, Black Lives Matter, everything that came with that the divide between black and
Yeah.
white became put under a microscope. When we had COVID, everything with any Asian people became put under the microscope.
Right.
The
It did, didn't it?
Asian Americans were under watch here. And now it's like the Jewish people, it's like, I feel like our country just likes to roll through people.
Right. Well, my hope is, on the longer term thing, and this is just a me thing, that all of this exposure and education and information that's being available, even though it doesn't offer a solution in the immediate time, more people on the planet are educated about more stuff than have ever been. Like, maybe,
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope. That's wishful thinking, and maybe a little naive, but it, to me, it's the only thing that can make sense of this chaos that at times seems unsolvable. I think about my kids and how they see things differently. And I hope there's always progression. But thank you so much for coming on the show. And again, just speaking from the heart, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Scott.